Hello there everyone! So today I'm going to be going through my top 10 strongest epic dragons in DML. And so this is going to be based off of the dragon's attack stat, so which epic has the highest attack stat in the game essentially. And I'll be using the Dragon Mania Legends Wiki's table of dragons to help me out a little bit here. But in the number 1 spot, this is the main reason I wanted to do the video this week, is the Horn Dragon. And so the Horn Dragon is a very interesting dragon. Love his design to begin with, but his elements are the Shadow, Light, and Energy with a base attack stat of 74. So his attack stat isn't as good as quite a lot of legendaries, but for an epic he actually has the highest base attack stat in the game. And that makes him a very strong dragon to begin with, and plus, since his main element is the shadow element, it means that he isn't weak to very much in the game at all. So, not having many weaknesses, plus having the highest attack stat in the game, makes him an extremely good dragon. And number 2 on my list goes to the Rocker Dragon. And so the reason for this, again, the same attack stat at 74. So both him and the Horn Dragon share the same attack stat, which is extremely high, and the Rocker's elements are Shadow, Energy, and Fire. So the only real difference is that the Rocker doesn't have the Light element, and some people could argue that they feel like having Energy plus Fire is more AoE and therefore better than the Horn Dragon was overall, but I feel like Light still has a lot of uses, and again, this dragon starts off with the Shadow element, so he isn't weak to very much. And then the third strongest dragon, or third strongest epic dragon in DML I should say, goes to the Raptor Dragon. So this dragon isn't really readily available for people to get. He's only really been available during like gem spending events before, but he also has 74 as his base attack stat, except his elements are the Light, Shadow, and Energy. So the only real difference is the order in which his elements are and a couple of changes between him and the Rocker. But him having Light as his primary element makes him weak to different things, and I feel like having Shadow as your primary is better than having Light as your primary element. But overall, the Raptor is still an incredibly good dragon to use on a team. The only issue is, like I said, he isn't really very easy to get a hold of. And so then, moving on to our fourth strongest dragon in DML, that would have to go to the Hellhound Dragon. So you probably see me use this guy on my Android account. There's a very good reason for that. Again, 74 base attack stat, so still shared with the others, except his elements are Fire, Shadow, and Energy. And the main issue with the Hellhound in comparison to the others is the fact that Fire is his main element, or his first element, which means that he's weak to Shadow and some of the really scary elements out there, which makes him actually quite a decent amount weaker than the Horn Dragon or the Rocker overall. But his attack stat is so high, and having Fire and Energy, again, very good AoE attacks, still makes him a very good dragon. It's just at the expense of a little bit of health because of his typing. And then moving on to our fifth strongest dragon in DML, that's going to go to the Black Hole Dragon. So this dragon has actually never been available before either, but 74 base attack stat, and he is more or less exactly the same as the Hellhound Dragon. It's just his elements are a little bit changed around with Fire, Energy, then Shadow. So he isn't really that different overall. Again, same attack stat, same health, but I do like him. I'd probably rather use the Black Hole than the Hellhound in terms of design, but apart from that, they are more or less the same dragon, which is why he still gets to be on the list. So then moving on to the sixth strongest epic dragon in DML, this goes to another dragon that has never really been available before, and this goes to the Blackberry Dragon. I love the design of this dragon so much. I love the little fruit dragons, but this guy has finally been the first one to lower his attack stat down to 73. So, obviously not a whole lot of difference between the others, 73 to 74. It's not a whole lot. It is the difference between quite a few millions by the time the dragon gets to a high level, of course. But his elements are Shadow, Plant, and Energy. So you could say that this dragon having shadow and plant makes him better than the others. But obviously, going off attack stat on its own, he's a tiny little bit worse than the others. But if this guy ever becomes available, he is definitely worth picking up because of that plant element. So then, moving on to the next dragon, that would be the Vulture Dragon. And this guy was available during the Dragon's Delight event in July of this year, and I unfortunately missed out on him on my Android account by 2 points. 2 points, which is very depressing. But he has 73 as his base attack stat, so similar to the Blackberry, and his elements are Energy, Shadow, and Wind. And so he gets placed behind the Blackberry because he has Energy as his primary element, which makes him weak to a little bit more that I'd rather him not be weak to, but a very good dragon overall. And then we've got number 8 on our list, going to the Kongming Dragon. So this dragon has a base attack stat of 72, which is another point lower than the others, with Light, Shadow, and Fire being his elements. But he still has a very high attack stat, and again, only if you have a dragon with Shadow or Light as their main element, they're not weak to a whole lot and they're strong against a lot, which is why this dragon gets this position. And there are more dragons in the game, or more epics, that do have a base attack stat of 72, which you could say would put them on the same sort of level as the Kongming, but a lot of them are weak to a lot of things. Instead of mentioning any of those, I'm going to move on to our 9th strongest epic, which will go to the Stardust Dragon. And so the Stardust Dragon is an epic base attack stat of 71, which is a few points lower than the best dragon on this list, but its elements are Shadow, Light, and Void. I'm personally not a massive fan of the Void element, but Shadow and Light being on this dragon makes it a very scary dragon overall, and it has a decent amount of health, which is why I feel pretty confident in putting it in the 9th spot. But again, there are dragons or other epics that do have a very slightly higher base attack stat, but I don't feel like they give as much to a team as the Stardust Dragon would. And so, the final dragon, a number 10 that gets onto this list, goes to the Echo Dragon. And along with this guy having a base attack stat of 71, which is still high, having Shadow, Fire, and Wind as his elements, so having Shadow as that primary, I do appreciate that he has the Wind element, which is really nice for some teams if they want to be defensively aggressive, is how I describe the Wind element. But at the same time, this is a dragon that almost everyone in the game, I'm going to say, has access to him. So if you don't have the Stardust, you don't have any of these other limited time dragons, you don't have the Hellhound from the Halloween event, haven't bred the Rocker yet, then you probably have the Echo Dragon available to you, which means that he's available at a very low level. And having Shadow as his primary element, some people say that that makes him better than the Hellhound is. I can see a point for that, but at the same time, I just feel like the Hellhound's extra little bit of damage helps him out more. But those are my list of the 10 best epic dragons in DML. You know, you don't have to agree with me on this list, it's just from their base attack stats and their elements, this is the conclusion that I've come to. I'd love to get a hold of the Raptor. The Rocker's a pretty easy dragon to breed overall. And of course, the Horn Dragon is currently available to breed in the game. So if you get a hold of this Horn Dragon, honestly, it would be super, super good for anyone that's at a relatively low level. So I am probably going to skedaddle after that, but again, let me know what you think, let me know what dragons you should think should go on this list. I'd say that the minimum amount of damage they'd have to have would be 70 to 71 to put them in the air quotes top spot, because, you know, some legendaries have 80, 81 as their base attack stat, so to keep the epics sort of as close to the legendaries as we can, I'd say that that has to be the minimum. But again, let me know what you think, and thank you for listening and joining me today, but until next time, I will see you then.